I mean, obviously the outro sad and everything, and the disconnect between Jonathan and his folks and everything, and of course he's at the end of it. He realizes he became a victim to his own hubris and everything, just like fucking happens to so many people. But
Sure.
instead of, I think a lot of people still, there's plenty of musicians out there, in their 60s and 70s, still trying to chase that clout and still trying
Sure.
to be relevant. And I don't know what the right answer is, man. I could be one of two minds of that and say, just hang it the fuck up. But at the same time, man, I mean, as a musician, dude, I get it. I don't understand wanting to stay relevant, but I understand wanting to continually evolve your craft because you kind of have to for every new generation. So, um, yeah, it was a great album, man, front to back. And there's a couple of tracks in here. I'd have to refer to the notes on which one it was, but there's one specifically that if I closed my eyes, I could smell the smoke, the pot smoke, and smell the sweat and everything, and just kind of feel everybody around me, feeling the energy of the song. The song was just that good at kind of conveying energy in it, and yeah, he did a really good job with this, man. Really good album.
Well, if you're ready, man, I'm ready to smack it out, man.
Oh, I thought we were already doing it, man. So,
Oh,
shit.
all right, let's do it.
Yeah.
The Crimson Idol, I think, is a great album from top to bottom, and it starts out with the Titanic Overture, and I think this song is based to introduce us to Jonathan, the main character of the album, and to give us a background of what his life was like growing up, and the things he was going through, um, the fact that his father accepted his brother more than him, and that he was like the black sheep of the family. He's the one that didn't fit in with the rest. And I think a lot of artists go through that. I think a lot of us are the black sheep because you go to your parents and you say, "Hey, man, I want to be a musician and not a butcher, baker, or candlestick maker." A lot of people get frowned on, and that creativity they try to squash it and say, "Hey, you got to do the I want you to do the 9 to 5 thing or whatever it is that society tells us to do."
Guilty. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this. I'm a musician, and picking up the guitar was never a problem at home. My parents support me. They're great. They're fantastic. I have nothing bad to say. They've always accepted me and my path. They've been very, very supportive. But initially, as a not even a young man, as a teen or what have you, I remember Dad wouldn't let me listen to Metallica. I remember specifically being in a record store around the time Load came out, and wanted to pick up Load. I had money saved up for the summer, and wanted to buy Load. And I remember picking it up. My dad's like, "You are not buying that." He didn't know that I had Injustice for All saved, on tape somewhere or whatever. But yeah, it's I wasn't. I damn sure wasn't the black sheep of the family for sure. Um, but I think a lot of musicians feel that way, and so this album on the whole, I kind of, to a degree, I feel or felt rather, I have felt exactly like Jonathan has felt in this album.
And, we go into Invisible Boy, and this just elaborates the theme of how he feels. When he says, "I'm the boy only the mirror sees," because um, he's that dude that's not accepted, and by probably his peers as well as his family, and so he feels that pressure and that feeling. And I think the song is musically one of the strongest tracks on the album. It's the energy level on this track is very high.
Oh yeah, yeah, killer solo, man. Yeah, definitely the dude was hurting, and in retrospect, obviously kind of compounding on my previous thought with the first track. Yeah, I mean, going through the emotions of not being seen by anybody and not feeling um, visible, so to speak, is this is kind of a search for validation, especially at such a young age, and when there is kind of a a spark of talent, whatever that somebody may or not have. may or may not have. And, you know, when you're looking out and trying to find someone to validate how you feel invisible. I know a lot of people that would know how that would feel. I felt like that at a time or two in my life. Like I said, I've lived a great life. My parents are fantastic. You know, they've never been to one of my shows or anything like that. But I've never felt invisible because of that. But the quest for validation for sure. So,
And then, it gets to a point where we lead into the arena of pleasure. And that this is the point in which he's leaving the home to make his dreams come true, to become, a big artist. He's taken in by, as so many, especially in my era, go to California, become an actor, become an actress, become a musician, and acquire fame. And he found out that the world in the West Coast was not the world that he was living in, and he had no idea what he was walking into.
such as the life of many aspiring artists, actors, actresses, etc. It's it's a gleam on the horizon that apparently draws you in, like a moth to a flame, and once you get there, it burns you right the fuck up. And I mean, he's explained it in great detail, metaphorically to this album, um, what that's like, and it's kind of scary. I mean, there's nothing appealing to me about that type of the music industry in the least little bit, whatever. But it does appeal to a lot of people, and that's not really their fault. I mean, I would say, yeah, a lot of people should do their homework now that we have it. Back then, in your day, man, that information wasn't out there. People couldn't go online and research it. It was the music industry. It was fucking California. Go talk to a record executive, let them find you and fucking sign you. You got it made, and then they're gonna fucking there again go through the meat grinder.
And speaking of the meat grinder, we go into Chainsaw Charlie, and
Yeah.
this is him meeting the man, the industry, and his experiences with it, and the brutality of how you can be fucked so hard in an industry that is doesn't care about you. They only care about the money they make.
Yeah, man. I mean, if I've if I've never liked a character in a fucking song or a movie or whatever, it's definitely Mr. Charles. I don't like Charles at all, dude. It was definitely a great analogy for from everything that I've read and people that I've talked to that have had firsthand accounts of dealing with these assholes. It's the same song and dance from anybody and everybody I've ever talked to or every story I've read. The same shit, and I just it sucks that people keep kind of getting drawn into it. But I think W.A.S.P did a great job of putting the spotlight on that situation through this whatever and letting people. Of course, this was 30 fucking 3 years ago, and this was I don't know. You tell me. This could have been very taboo, kind of pulling the curtain back and letting people see what's behind it. Because I mean, even to this day, how it's frowned upon, and
Sure.
these high-level executives and rich folk go to great lengths to kind of keep themselves, hidden from the public and from how the public perceives what they do. So, yeah, Charlie, man, fuck Charlie, dude. It's very
Yeah.
operatic. I like the song though. The song was very operatic, and yeah, the analogy was great, man.
Yeah. The symbolism of the chainsaw is absolutely perfect.
Yeah, yeah,
Then we go into the gypsy meets the boy, and this is kind of an offshoot from the story that we're in, and it's kind of a random moment but a great acoustic piece. And I it's just a random story about him meeting a gypsy and her telling him what actually will lie ahead for him, and his dismissal of it after consideration. He still wanted the dream was bigger than what the fate she was delivering.
yeah. It always seems as cliche as it seems in movies and tales that a gypsy giving you your fortune is always met with somebody ignoring it completely. And yeah, this was a fun song, and I say this in a lot of our reviews because I'm nostalgic, and this song in particular, the acoustics are fantastic. The way it was written is very quintessential '90s. So there's a couple on here that were very just they harken the '90s. That's all I could picture this song. I don't know if you did you ever watch Tales from the Crypt in the early '90s,
Oh
the
yeah,
TV show. I could see
absolutely.
this song having been put in Tales from the Crypt or even the movie Demon Knight, whatever. Um, it was a very what did I write on here? It reminded me of a reflection montage of a character from Tales from the Crypt, circa early '90s, and yeah, this one it was just a good song, whatever. But it's man, if the songs had a flavor, it was a fucking early '90s, whatever. And I like that. I like that those they remain timeless, but at the same time, the sound that whether it's the tone of the guitar, the production, or what have you, or even some of the way that the song's constructed is very '90s.
And I think one of the great things that I appreciate about the album is that the way it's able to maneuver itself musically. You know, you come off of Chainsaw Charlie, and it's a very strong track, very driving track.
Mm.
Then you come into this track, but it still seems like it's supposed to go there. You get this
Right.
feel through the album that all these changes are supposed to happen.
Yeah, it wasn't random at all. Yeah, you're right. It may kind of seem like that, but it was very intentional, and the dynamic that he was trying to kind of ride that wave, what have you. So yeah, no, you're right.
Then we come on to Dr. Rocker, and how many artists have a Dr. Rocker in their stable? That's
Yikes.
you know, that's probably one of the most sad things about the industry and about fame and receiving money. And it doesn't go just for music; it goes for athletes, artists of all kinds. It's a sad reality that people get strung and hooked onto drugs, and it becomes a daily way of survival at one point.
Yeah, I hate it, man. I'm I've been I've never done aside from pot, aside from smoking plenty of pot in my youth and you know previous in a previous life, so to speak. I've never luckily I've never had to be around any of it, but I've heard plenty of stories, and it's to the untrained ear and eye, man, it seems appealing. Wow, you get to be numb all the time, and I'm a pretty vibrant dude, and I don't like to be numb all the time. And I do know some people that have kind of fallen victim to that, and it's yeah, it sucks, man. I just hate it. I mean, sometimes they or they say sometimes it's not good to meet your idols and stuff, and that's why I was always kind of apprehensive about going to shows and wanting to do VIPs because I've heard horror stories about these guys that are just fucked up all the time and like,
Right.
man, that's just doesn't sound appealing. But behind the curtain are people pushing that shit, and uh, didn't Stephen Wolf even write a fucking song about that called "The Pusher" or something like that? I
Yeah,
can't remember. Yeah, I don't know if that's what
absolutely.
it was in reference to, but that's what I always took it. But yeah,
Mm.
man, it sucks that is one of the main components of fame is you have people behind it getting you hooked on shit, sex or drugs, man, and that comes along unfortunately with
Sure.
rock and roll. So
Yeah. And then I think we come across after that track to one of the most powerful tracks on the album, and that's I Am One. I Am One
yes,
starts out with arena feels and the rush of emotion that he must have felt when he achieved fame. And it really, really grips you. The song is really strong and layered, and just delivers a
yes.
message that um, this is the fuel that sparked all these other problems, was reaching that plateau, and he wanted that rush all the time.
It's a rush. Being on stage is a rush. That adrenaline's pumping. Yeah, this was the song that I was talking about earlier in our conversation, man. If I close my eyes, I can feel it. I can be right there in that arena. I can smell the pot. I can smell all the cheap fucking cologne and the sweat and the beer, and it in my mind it sounds like a great fucking time.
Right.
personally, you know.
And then, you know, we come into probably the strongest track, in my opinion, on the album is The Idol. And I think it really is. We're getting to a point in the story where we're starting to sum up everything that's going on. And the essential thing that he was missing and he was seeking, and I think he realized more than anything, is he always wanted that acceptance and he never got it. And so this song deals with that, the feeling that true love was the one thing that he truly sought for, and he couldn't find even with fame. He thought maybe he could achieve it, and once he achieved fame, he'd have the adoration of his family, his friends, and he would be accepted, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, and that's conveyed, I think, contrasted between the ripping fucking solo and the just, I mean, the power chords seem, I don't know if they quad tracked on this album. I'm gonna have to research the production, whatever. But the power chords that they use, and that's, I have to use that kind of fucking unironically, whatever, because they were truly powerful. The notes were, especially towards the end of the song, and it just, I mean, it kind of pulled you in, and it was almost kind of it's fucking weird, whatever, but it feels like the song was trying to hug you.
Sure.
It was like a giant cushion and a wall of sound that was trying to kind of encompass you. And I think it really did that, whatever, very, very well, very well.
And then we go into Hold On to Your Heart, and this is this kind of a this is another way of just pulling Jonathan um, and taking basically a twist of what he was going through. And this song is about what he actually wanted to achieve, a love that was pure and from the heart. And it's a somber moment, and it really takes us away from the twist of he wanted the acceptance, didn't get it. And this song's about what it's like if you have that acceptance.
Hmm. I did well. I guess that kind of makes sense. Whatever it was, to me, it was kind of a standalone song. It felt like it was written either first or very last, whatever. Almost didn't feel like it fit in until you said that. But honestly, I remember the first time I heard it. This here's this early '90s working for me again. This reminded me of an old. You're not a country guy, whatever. I listen to a little older country and stuff. This reminded me of an older Brooks and Dunn or even a Restless Heart album, kind of a cheesy country love song from the early '90s, which I, by the way, fucking love. I'm kind of
Nice.
eclectic when it comes to stuff like that. Whatever. Yeah, it was. It contrasted well too with the rest of the album, in that it did stand alone and it was pure acoustic and it was just kind of a different vibe altogether.
Sure.
But I thought it really went well with the rest of it, especially considering it's like an operatic rock piece. So yeah, it was a great song, man. Um, Works
And
really
I
well.
think
Straight. Go ahead. Sorry.
and it definitely fits perfect in going into the last track because it's
Yeah.
it's providing that slow build that the album was goes into. And I think it's for that placement, it's a good placement for the track.
Yeah.
And getting into the last track, we come into finalization of everything that's going on, that Jonathan achieves his fame, achieves everything he wanted, and he tries to call his parents to get that acceptance. And it busted him to do it, but he did anyway, to only to find out that his mom says, "We have no son."
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. That was that sucks.
Yeah,
I know I know how I feel about it. I don't know how to articulate it. Um, it that happens to a lot of people, man. It sucks. I mean, somebody that becomes a victim of their own hubris, whatever, by whatever means, and a lot of people have falling outs and they're estranged from their parents or family members, and I hate that, man.
sure.
But it's unfortunately just kind of the nature of the beast. There's a lot of people that I don't like, but I've said this before with you in previous um, meetings or what have you, you know, where we've bullshitted, and I've always been a fan of. I do love everybody, but I don't like a lot of motherfuckers, and I mean it sucks, you know. So you know, and of course the whole topic of suicide too. That's tough for a lot of people. And just of course in the method of how it was described in the song, with the strings and that was pretty fucked up. I don't really know how I feel about that. Um, Obviously, it's not an answer. It's never the answer.
Sure.
And um, I hate that even for an imaginary Jonathan. But the problem is that it's not imaginary. That happens to a lot of people every day, and that they're I don't know, man. Anyways, yeah, I'm sorry. I just don't really know how I feel. Like I said, I can't really
Right.
articulate it. But yeah,
And
it was. Go ahead.
this album could be a play. I mean, it
Yeah.
literally could
Oh,
be a
yeah.
play. I think it's so well constructed and so well thought out, the whole storyline and everything. And I think can resonate with any number of people, whether they're
Sure.
involved in the music industry or not. The story definitely resonates with everyone.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You're exactly right. You don't have to be a musician or have anything to fucking do with an industry, whatever. But the devil's in the fucking details too, and there's always a force out there that people are gravitated to: vanity, lust, greed, fucking food. It doesn't matter. So
Yeah.
there's always something trying to kind of fish hook you and take you away, whatever. And especially I'm a musician. I love music. I can't sit here and I can boldly say that I have no desire to have ever been affiliated, with stuff
Mhm.
like Jonathan was. There was
Sure.
one time I aspired to it, but like now, man, I mean, there's nothing appealing about it. But it would be hard to if I had somebody say, "Hey, man, listen, we're offering fucking Nano Instant a 6 album contract, and here's the deets, whatever." Even before I decide that I should grab a fucking lawyer and fine tooth comb that shit, it would be, man, holy
Right.
shit,
Sure.
you know. But I can't
Absolutely.
imagine. I'm a happily married dude, and I love being near my wife, and I'm a homebody. So I'm not the kind of guy that this really applies to. So, but my 22-year-old self, absolutely, man. I mean, it'd be hard not to be pulled in like a
Sure.
moth to a flame.
Right.
That's just gonna burn you in the fucking end, man. So yeah, rest in peace, Jonathan. I guess, dude. But to kind of book in that, I was reading about Blackie Lawless earlier, and this seems to be about the time that I guess he kind of fell out of faith,
Yeah.
or somewhere around the time. And I was reading about him, and Blackie said, I know, Bob, I know you don't like to talk religion, but I feel like there's a lot of faith kind of hidden in this, or at least an attempt at getting the attention of a higher creator or whatever, God. If one's so inclined, I call him God. People call him
Sure.
whatever.
Yeah.
And I just recently learned that Blackie Lawless found his faith, and that was just so great to hear. And it seems like this album specifically may have had something to do with falling out and maybe even the return to it. He went on a fucking walkabout for, he said, 20 something years, man. And so I don't know, maybe this is kind of an internal struggle that he was going with and kind of coming to terms with.
Right. And I think not only that, but also at that time, his he's pissed off with the industry and the way W.A.S.P was accepted in the States. For years and years. They played only Europe, and
Oh, wow.
until recently, and they came, when he came back and returned. But he was probably gone for 15 years, never played the
Wow.
States or more.
Yeah.
And he is just so upset with the industry, and I agree with you. I think a lot of this is his disdain for the industry and what was going on here, on this end, as far as the promotion of the band was ass bad and everything else. And he's like, man, I'm filling places all across Europe, man. I'm just gonna camp here. Fuck it.
Yeah. I remember specifically. probably 1984, 1985, my first introduction to W.A.S.P. And I was a kid. I was 2 or 3 years old, but it's so funny. I remember it like it was yesterday because, especially in retrospect, thinking about it, how just kind of ludicrous it was. Yeah, I was raised a good Methodist, Christian family, and we had my great grandmother. We'd have Christmas at her house, the day before, the day after. And I remember my eldest cousin Hal, who is also a musician, phenomenal musician. I remember she was handing out presents to everybody, and she gave my cousin Hal a W.A.S.P album, and on tape, in fucking 1984, 1985. It might have been a little bit later, but I think it was probably that early because I remember looking at it, and I remember seeing him on the cover, Blackie Lawless,
Yeah.
as a kid, and it just kind of intrigued me. Of course, I didn't listen to. I can't even remember the first time I listened to W.A.S.P. I was reintroduced to him through Children of Bodom because they did. I think it was Follow the Reaper. They did a cover of Somebody Put Something in My Drink, and I was like, oh fuck, I forgot about W.A.S.P. because you never heard about him. I never
Sure.
heard about him growing up. It was always who was famous. So maybe that fucking had something. Maybe this album had something to do with just kind of them being absent. Because yeah, I never saw him.
Yeah, they it's funny. It's like after Electric Circus tour, pretty much they just like I don't know. It just was like they faded right off the map, and it was sad, so I don't know if it was representation, the label, whatever, but they've always gotten bad raps, we are sexual perverts and all that, and so maybe the industry tried to lay off them for a moment or whatever, but it got to a point where they weren't, they couldn't even get in clubs, and they're like, "Fuck this, man! We're selling 20 grand, 100 grand over in Europe all year. Let's just park here."
Well, that to me kind of is an indication of how the industry works. If you call it out and get everybody to, if you draw attention to it, it's pretty powerful. I mean, I'm not going to name any names specifically. I mean, I can, and I think you know exactly who we're talking about. But
Sure.
there's been recent things come out in the music industry. It's not necessarily rock or metal, but there's been really powerful musicians and people, the richest ones in the world, and they call out people, and you see these, you just see how powerful the industry can be and what they can do to
Sure.
people. And if they can do that to the most powerful and influential people in the music industry, they can do it to you and you and me, whatever, for
Right.
something.
Sure.
If we draw enough attention, and that's the problem, is like you have to really pick and choose your battles, and decide when and where to be loud about stuff like this, because otherwise all you're doing is I've been playing a video game called Predator Hunting Grounds. I'm a huge Predator fan, and you play as either a fire team or the Predator, and the main objective is to be quiet and do your objective,
Sure.
and be as quiet and make as little noise as
Right.
possible, or the Predator's gonna fucking see you. So it's kind of the same thing. You have to be very careful what you say and who you say it to, because there are people that are at the behest of all these record executives and beyond. So yeah, I mean the fact that Blackie's still alive is a testament to the fact that he does fantastic fucking music. I mean, this is a great album. And before we get too far in, I'm gonna say this is easily a fucking 9 out of 10, easily. Great fucking album, and I hadn't listened to any other W.A.S.P albums, dude. So I hope the other ones are as good as this.
I give this a 9 out of 10. I think
Yeah.
it's the strongest Wasp album in the catalog. I think that it really, I mean, in reading some of the stats, I remember a few of the stats that were on the um, pages that described the album. And I remember like 200 plus sticks were used and all the strings and everything that they went through in producing this album. I think
Wow.
it just showed that, you know, this was a very, very important project for Blackie and it meant something to him. and he wanted to make sure it's absolutely perfect.
Well, it definitely wasn't just done on a whim. Somebody was bored and decided to come up with this music. I mean, you can the intent behind it is very just obvious, and there was so much passion and care and love going into this project. This isn't something. I mean, honestly, the damn album's like a fever dream, and I know we've said that before about like Fate's Warning, you know,
Sure.
A Pleasant Shade of Gray, and it's very much. And I think a lot of the albums that we've reviewed have kind of been in this same vein where these are just kind of the inflated persona, if you will, of these bands and just kind of showcasing what they're capable of.
Sure. Yes, I agree as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
a great
agree.
album.
And I think I know this album was the marked the first time in all those years. I think it's like 10, 15 years that they had not played the States. And this was their first, this was like their return thing to the States. They actually did dates here in the United States for his tour.
Interesting. Yeah, it's I know of a couple of bands. I'm not a huge grunge. I don't like grunge necessarily, but one of my favorite um, artists is Cold. They're a grunge band from Seattle, post grunge or whatever you want to call them. And I guess they kind of had a similar story where they got fucked by the record companies, and they ended up writing a song called "Fuck the" or "Kill the Music Industry" rather. And you know the chorus was it's nowhere obviously near the prowess of this um, type of music, whatever. But still, the message is just as strong. It's just kind of straight to the point, you know. Fuck the music industry, and I think a lot of people feel the same way. And you know, here's the saving grace now, Bob. You know, you don't need a buffer in between you and the listener. I think it probably helps, especially for like promotions and management type situation. I would imagine if you're touring, it really helps. I'm a hands-on guy. I do everything myself, but the beauty of it is, you know, and for anybody listening, man, I encourage people to visit a digital distributor and do the work yourself and fucking bypass these tool bags, the Chainsaw Charlies and the fucking was it Alex Rodman or whatever the other
Sure.
guy?
Yeah.
You know, fuck these people, dude. We don't need them. Put them out of put these third party motherfucking leeches out of fucking business, man. We don't need bottom feeders. And I'm a big proponent of independent artistry. I am one. I have collaborated with a couple. Obviously, you know, you have too,
Mhm.
and it's I think it's high time that these people are just kind of kicked to the fucking streets. We don't need them. It doesn't matter what it is. Bureaucracy is bureaucracy in any fucking form, and these guys are fucking no different, you know. And it's I think it'd be a testament to a lot of people and their willpower and talent, man, just to
Sure.
fucking bypass these cocksuckers and do it them fucking selves. It's a lot
Yeah.
more work. It's a little bit more expensive, but you don't have to deal with tool bags that are gonna fucking throw you to the fucking wolves, grind
Yeah.
you up into
And
meat.
yeah. And they're going to tell you, well, thank you. I love all this material. Thanks for signing it over to me. Yeah.
Exactly. Who is that you were telling me? Fuck, I can't remember who it was, man. We were having a conversation a while back about there was an artist that they didn't have the rights to like their first couple of albums, man. I can't remember. This is probably a drunken night we had.
Cinderella didn't receive a dime on the first two.
That was it. It was Cinderella. Yep, that's exactly who it was. Yep. You got a good goddamn memory, man. Shit. Yeah, and that's just that. I tell you what, man. As an artist, that blows my mind. That's like somebody taking your child. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, apples to oranges. I mean, and I don't mean that in a true sense, but I can't imagine how empty I would feel having, you know, and I've had to sign non-disclosure agreements before for things, whatever that have pertained to, you know, some personal shit, whatever. And I don't, in hindsight, you know, this is years ago. I wouldn't fucking do that again to save my life. I value my sovereignty, man, and especially things that kind of come out of here and here.
Mhm.
It's hard to give that away. It's hard
Sure.
to even let people listen to it. I couldn't imagine giving it to somebody so they could molest it and put it out there. So, yeah,
And the
it's,
thing
I mean,
is, man, they took all these young kids, 16, 17, and don't know shit about the industry and don't think they're getting fucked and don't think to get lawyers and lawyer up. And, they're telling them, look, we're going to get all your stage equipment. You're going to tour the world. You're going to do this. But they're not telling you you're going to pay for all that equipment.
It sounds great. Man, I remember in high school, dude, I remember, holy shit, I was starstruck, dude. I wanted to be a rock star so bad. I wanted to be Dimebag Darrell so fucking bad, man. My mom, who was a principal of the school that I fucking attended, she told me, she's like, dude, she said, I want you to drop out of fucking school. It's my junior year. She said, drop out of school. She said, you're not learning anything anyway. You're not being challenged. Get your GED, move down to Austin, Texas, and go be a fucking rock star. Well, fuck. I felt pressured into it, and I'm such an introvert. My autism works overtime and shit like that. So I felt uneasy about it. So what I did, which kind of coincided divine intervention, I had a thesis to write. And that thesis was things that you really aspire to do, which was be a part of the music industry. Bob, I changed my mind so fucking fast doing it like a fucking 30-page thesis on the music industry. It was unbelievable. And it opened my fucking eyes. And that's why I've always had nothing but pure resentment to it.
I agree. I think that's the thing is, at that time they were just taking advantage of kids, and really, to me, it's almost unlawful to me in a way, because these guys, some of them, just barely 18, sign these deals and just getting totally fucked. And it's sad, because it's all because the dream was so much here in their heads, they
Yep.
couldn't see the fuckery that was in front of them.
Can you imagine all the fucking money and all the psychological operations that have gone into taking advantage of people like that behind the scenes? For who did it really start with? I would probably say fucking Elvis Presley, putting that piece front and center. The king, he's the fucking king. I like Elvis, dog, but I mean, the fact of the matter is, everybody has gotten hoarded out since. And it usually doesn't end very well for that person. I mean, Michael Jackson's another one. Michael Jackson was a big proponent of calling people out in the 90s if you know where to look. And I mean, I miss the guy. What happened to him? They slandered him. They fucking drug his shit through the fucking mud.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. I wasn't there, but like the allegations that were brought against him, man, it's disheartening. I don't want to think that he was a weird guy, no doubt. But
right.
Do I really think he did that? I think he was in the wrong place at the wrong time type situation. But what I do know is that he did call motherfuckers out for that shit, the same way that Blackie was doing metaphorically. So, there's tons of them, man. It sucks. I hate it. Down with the fucking music industry. Oh, sorry.
I want to thank you for another great review, my friend. And the ball's in your court, my friend. I look forward to your next choice.
Yeah, man. It's been great. I'm relieved and excited. I've been nervous kind of all day because, the people that have, watched, they don't know. We've been trying to do this for 6 fucking months, and there's just been kind of things in the way, and it's probably been about a year. I'm trying to think of when we started doing this. So this would be episode number 6, I believe. And yeah, it's got to be episode number 6. And we try to do these once a month, and we're back on track. And you're doing fucking fantabulous, and I'm glad to see you. Man, you look fucking healthy. You sound great. Your spirit's alive, and man, that's contagious, dude. And I love you, man, and thank you for having me on. And I'm glad we're fucking back and kicking ass.
Me too. It's absolutely my pleasure, and I am so glad to be back and able to do this. And I think as we've talked for many months now, this will be our year. I think we're going to do great things, my friend.
Yeah, let's manifest that shit, man. Yeah, I've already got the album, which I think will kind of piggyback off this in terms of a rock opera type situation. I thought about it for a while, but I don't even know if you've listened to it. But yeah, we'll get to that next month, man. So
great day, my friend. It's always a pleasure speaking with you.